Hi, welcome to another edition of This Issue. My guest this time is my friend Mark Roman, a woodworker from Solon, Maine. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bruce.
Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
Today is February 16th as we tape this show. And that's an important date because we're talking about a bill that's now before the state legislature and is moving fast. It's a bill for General Dynamics Corporation, which owns Bath Iron Works, that is asking the state for additional $60 million tax break on top of over $200 million they've received from the state and the city of Bath since 1997. You're one of the leaders in our statewide campaign to stop this bill. Why do you oppose the bill, Mark?
Because General Dynamics doesn't need $60 million from the people of Maine on a tax giveaway. They just don't need it. They had $31 billion revenue for in 2017 and had $3 billion in profits.
$3 billion in profits?
$3 billion in profits. So they need our $60 million. I don't think so.
The tax cut bill, it's called LD 1781, is being introduced in Augusta by two Democrats, Representative Jennifer DeChant in Bath and Senator Eloise Vitelli from Arousic. Now, usually Democrats want to support social spending and oppose corporate welfare. Why are they supporting these two Democrats and other Democrats across the state? Why are they now supporting corporate welfare for General Dynamics?
Well, Bruce, I don't think that Representative DeChant really has any motive other than helping Bath Iron Works, but she is making it sound like it's only Bath Iron Works that this is all about. And that's everything here in the committee, in the discussions, it's Bath Iron Works, keep jobs, Bath Iron Works. Nothing about the rich daddy General Dynamics that owns Bath Iron Works. That's behind that.
She's actually refused to even discuss the profits of General Dynamics, correct?
That's true. And when the representative from BIW was testifying, he feigned ignorance of General Dynamics' financial situation, which I found rather ridiculous.
Now, he was asked by one of the members of the Taxation Committee during a work session that you and I were at. Mm-hmm. Senator Chenette from Saco asked him, well, you have to show the need. It's like if you go to a bank and you ask for a loan, you have to prove that you really need it, right? Mm-hmm. And so they asked him to show the books of Bath Iron Works to show that they really need this money. And what was his answer?
His response is, no, we will not do that. Very, very forcefully, yes.
And how did that committee seem to take that?
There were a few heads turned, and I could hear the wheels spinning. Yeah.
Now, we've recently also heard that General Dynamics is additionally asking Connecticut, the state of Connecticut, for $150 million in a similar corporate subsidy. So they're asking Connecticut for money. They've already got some from Rhode Island. I don't know the amount, but it's millions from Rhode Island. They're asking Maine for $60 million. What do you think is General Dynamics' strategy here?
To increase that revenue, that bottom line, to make profit from the people of Connecticut and the people of Maine. Millions and millions of dollars that they don't need to operate on.
What makes you think they don't need it?
Well, they are able to buy other companies. They recently made a cash offer to buy a IT company worth $6.8 billion. So if they have billions of dollars to buy other companies up, I don't think they need it from the state of Maine to train workers. I think they can take care of that.
Now, you mentioned training workers. That's one of the things General Dynamics is saying they want this money for, to help pay for training of new, younger workers. Admirable, but isn't it true that the contract that General Dynamics signs with the federal government includes money for salaries, training, all their supplies, all their equipment, everything? Isn't that true?
Yes, it is. It is. I don't know how they can. Well, they want to make it sound like Maine is going to lose Bath Iron Works, and Maine's not going to lose Bath Iron Works. There's another builder in Mississippi, Ingalls Shipyard. It's the only other shipyard that builds these kind of ships. And if they were hit by a hurricane, wiped out, General Dynamics doesn't want to be left with no shipyards. They are not going to get rid of Bath Iron Works.
You mean the Navy doesn't want?
The Navy doesn't. No,
Yeah.
the Navy doesn't.
Yeah. And Ingalls in Mississippi, that's right in Hurricane Alley, right?
It sure is.
And with global warming happening, we're seeing that the hurricanes are getting more severe all the time. So they're really in a bad spot, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They are.
So would you say that it's a little disingenuous of General Dynamics to always claim that Ingalls is going to put us out of business?
That's putting it mildly. They just play the fear factor constantly, and they know that Maine is a state with not a whole lot of jobs, but so they play it to the hilt, the fear factor of you're going to lose these jobs.
And who is that fear factor aimed at in this state?
Well, it's aimed at the employees. It's aimed at the taxpayers, and it's aimed at the town of Bath.
And the state.
And the state.
In
yes,
this
of course.
case, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one other thing about, we were talking a minute ago about the contract that General Dynamics signs with the Navy. One more thing we didn't mention that's really important is in that contract, when they sign a contract with the Navy, one more item in that contract that's covered is General Dynamics' taxes for Bath Iron Works that they pay to the state of Maine, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. They got to keep their workers' withholding tax. The company got to keep the withholding tax of the workers in Bath, which that came to millions and millions of dollars. And there's no reason for that.
And then, but they write off their tax, what taxes they do pay. In addition to that, whatever taxes Bath Iron Works pays, General Dynamics pays it actually. State tax, after all their tax breaks are figured, whatever tax they still have, it's then included in their contract that the Navy, that they sign with the Navy. So there's really no cost there either for any taxes. Now, who's paying for the money that's used in the contract? Where does that money come from?
That comes from the taxpayer.
Where?
It comes from the federal government.
Federal government.
Sure.
So
so your U.S. taxes pay for it, and they want your state taxes to pay for it.
Yeah. So they're double dipping.
They sure
And
are.
when they go to Connecticut, they're triple dipping, and
Sure.
I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
I've seen you write that Maine has 43,000 children living in poverty in our state. Education funding is not where it should be. This bill, if it's passed, is it going to impact those needs? And could you talk more about these needs that we have today?
Of course it is going to impact the needs. We have more and more food insecurity in the state. We see that in the news almost every day. More homeless people. Education hasn't been funded for years like it's supposed to be. And I live in one of the poorest school systems in Maine, up in central Somerset County. And the schools do more and more with less and less. And it's not working. The children aren't getting the educations they need. Roads aren't being taken care of. Route 201 comes through my town. And by the way, a bill in the committee just before, in the first work session, just before LD 1781 came up was a bill presented to for highway improvements, and they had loggers testifying how the mills have been shutting, so more and more of the roads funnel down to specific roads to the few that are left, the few mills that are left, and those roads are just getting really pounded. And oddly enough, the money that they said they were in shortfall, the Transportation Committee, was $60 million.
You mean the Department of Transportation?
The Department of Transportation, yeah.
They said they needed $60 million
60 million.
to cover the roads and bridges. They also mentioned that the bridges are deficient. You remember what percent of bridges in Maine?
15% of the bridges in Maine are structurally deficient. And 33% of the bridges are either structurally deficient or functionally obsolete. And that was brought to mind in April of 2016 when a vehicle on the Route 1 viaduct in Bath skidded on the ice, took the guardrail out along with a bunch of posts, and ended up on a vehicle down below.
Yeah.
And it turned out that the state had inspected that guardrail numerous times but didn't fix it. And this was within literally a stone's throw of Bath Iron Works.
Yeah.
And Bath Iron Works makes anything. They can make paper clips, they can make $7 billion warships, they could make bridges for the state of Maine.
They have since repaired that viaduct in Bath, but there are still many, many, many bridges across the state that, as you say, are deficient and are not being fixed, as well as the roads. I'm talking with Mark Roman from Solon, Maine. He's a woodworker, and we're discussing General Dynamics' request for another $60 million tax break from taxpayers across our state. Mark, just for a minute, let's talk about what kind of woodworking you do. What do you do as a woodworker?
Oh, I do just about anything, Bruce. My specialty is carving, but I did a lot of circular staircase work in the time I've lived in Maine for the last 37 years.
All right. We attended that work session together a couple of weeks ago in Augusta before the Taxation Committee, and Representative DeChant from Bath, the sponsor of this bill, presented her bill amendments to the committee, but she was not able to really explain them to the committee. She had to get someone from the staff to help her, and at one point she even turned her head and said, "You might ask them behind me to explain it." And who was she talking about at that point was representatives from Bath Iron Works and from the law firm Pretty Flaherty. Now, who actually wrote this bill as far as you can determine?
It was Dan Walker from Pretty Flaherty. And
he's a lawyer?
I believe, yes, he is. And when Representative DeChant was speaking to the committee, she acted like she literally had it handed to her within the previous 15 minutes. She stumbled and halted, and she did have to ask for clarification on items, and she still wasn't very clear. She still wasn't very clear.
So what do you think her role is in this whole thing?
Well, it's to be the mouthpiece and gently roll the information and the message that we're really going to work hard with the state to make these amendments. And we're going to make it a $30 million giveaway for 10 years.
Instead of $60 million.
Instead of $60 million. But then they will renew it for another 10 years. So they just talk about two separate items when it's, in essence, the $60 million.
So this is sort of this new amendment that's just come out in recent days. And today, in fact, February 16th, as we're doing this show, Representative DeChant has op-eds in several papers across Maine trying to sell this amendment to the public. And so you're saying that instead of 60 million, they're saying it'll be a $30 million. And instead of 20 years, it'll be 10 years.
Right.
But at the end of that first 10 years,
They renew it.
they would have a renewal thing.
Right.
So really, there's no change.
No.
So it's a public relations gimmick
And smoke and mirrors.
in order to make the public think that, oh, well, they've compromised.
Right.
Isn't that it?
That is exactly it.
Now let's talk about General Dynamics, the parent company, for a minute. How much are the top executives at General Dynamics actually making these days?
Well, their CEO last year made $21 million. And the top 4 executives totaled over $40 million in pay. So they're doing okay. The company, since between 2009 and 2017, bought back $14.4 billion of its own shares, which...
Its own stock shares.
Right,
Yeah.
its own stock shares. $14.4 billion. And,
Now explain that, because not everybody's involved in the stock market. What does that really mean?
well, they invest in their own stocks, which brings the price of the stock up. And it's not the little guy, the little investor, who really benefits from this. It's inside people who know how to trade and the company executives themselves who have stock options.
And a lot of times, the salaries of the executives at General Dynamics are tied to the market share, right?
Sure
The value of the stock. The more it goes
Right,
up, the more
right.
they make. So if they got this, and you can only do these buybacks, right? If you got cash laying around,
Of
cash
course.
on hand.
Yeah.
And so you buy back your own stock, you drive up the market share, and then you increase
Your pay,
your pay.
of course.
That's kind of a gimmick, isn't it?
It's a hustle. It's a hustle. And $60 million in there seems like nothing to them, but it seems like a lot for the state of Maine to me. Yeah.
Does it make you kind of angry?
Yeah, it does make me angry. When I look around and see the needs in the state, not only to say that they need it, but to put people in a fear mode all the time. It's pretty dirty to me. It's not very nice.
You pay taxes?
Sure do. Pay taxes.
You make a lot of money?
Not quite 60 million, not even 6 million a year. No, Bruce. No, I don't make that kind of money.
As a woodworker, you don't make that much money, huh?
No.
So do you feel kind of ripped off by this thing?
Sure. This guy, I feel ripped off by the 5th largest weapons maker in the world to try to play me and all the other people in Maine for fools. That makes me a little angry. Yeah. Yep. With the needs that we have.
Review again some of the needs that touch your heart the most.
Well, my wife's a teacher, so education really is, and education is the future for Maine. It's the whole future. If you don't have an educated populace, you're not going to get people to settle in Maine with companies and provide jobs. So we have to educate people, and there's less and less all the time.
Can you give an example or two of from your wife's work as a teacher, where what you know about the difficulties financially with the school, the school board and all that?
We'll go to the school board meetings. We've been going on and off school board meetings for a decade, and they sit in a U formation at the tables, and they bring the tables closer and closer together while they're trying to just pass papers back and forth, trying to figure out how to make it balance, how to stop driving 5 more miles with this bus or that bus, change the route, somebody go figure that out, down to the most nitpicking things.
Just trying to squeeze money.
Squeeze money, hire less teachers, less ed techs, which are really needed. A lot of the children have problems, and there's not enough social workers, and this is all over the state, I believe, but it sure is in my school system.
So you think that in the end the kids suffer?
They certainly do. They suffer. Yes. And Bath does provide jobs, but UMass Amherst did a study back a few years ago, and for $1 billion spent making weapons, that's about the least jobs provided with that $1 billion. You could almost give the people their taxes back, and it would create more jobs. Any other thing into healthcare, education, invest that $1 billion, and it will be many more real jobs that pay and take care of people with benefits.
And in fact, that same study said that they would, if they built commuter rail systems to get us out of our polluting cars, to help deal with climate change, they would almost double the jobs at a place like Bath Iron Works. And in fact, just recently, New York City put out a request for proposals to buy thousands and thousands of new rail cars, and nobody in America, not one company in America bid on it, because nobody does it anymore.
Right.
And so a Japanese company has made the bid. It looks like they're going to get the work. So we could be, if we shifted this kind of thing, we'd get more jobs. We'd help deal with climate change because we could have commuter rail systems, and we'd employ more people and keep the money here at home instead of sending it overseas. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And it's not just General Dynamics that does this. All the other big contractors, weapons are very profitable. They can sell them all over the world, and there's a lot of profit in it for them, but not for the people in the state of Maine or in the country.
You know, I started a hunger strike 5 days ago. Today is again February 16th as we speak. And I've been going to Bath Iron Works every day at noon and 3:30 during the shift change, and handing out flyers and talking to workers. And I've talked to a lot of workers this week. And I want you to know that I heard repeatedly things like this. You're not alone. There are people inside here more than you realize that agree with you. General Dynamics doesn't need this. There's all kinds of waste that goes on inside of these kind of big military operations where they're building these weapon systems, and they don't need this money. These big executives, they don't need this money. And so this is a message I heard, of course, not from every worker, but I heard it from quite a few. And so I think there's even people there at Bath Iron Works. They pay taxes too.
Yeah,
they live,
exactly.
Many people, you know, they drive an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours to get here. So they live in rural parts of Maine. And so their kids are going to these schools that you're talking
That's
about
right.
that got no money, right?
That's right.
They got relatives that are facing hunger and poverty and everything else.
Yeah.
And so they know about these stories. So some of those workers inside of Bath Iron Works are not happy about this either.
Yeah, I bet you they're not. I'm sure that the Bath Iron Works squeezes the union for all it can get, because that seems to be the operating procedure for any big corporation these days.
Yeah, in fact, just yesterday, one worker talked to me about the last union contract. He said that really squeezed them hard. It changed. They had to pay more into health care. They have to pay more into retirement. There's not going to be a pay increase for several years. The company's only offering like a bonus that they can either give or not give, and how much, who knows, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of anger with General Dynamics. And then when people see them, workers at General Dynamics, see the company going between 2009 and 2017, buying back $14.4 billion of their own stock, they're not happy about that.
No, they're not. And I think General Dynamics is one of the people on the gravy train, but you know, the Pentagon has not been audited. These are the people that are buying these weapons. They're not audited. So nobody knows General Dynamics can move all this money around, and how they can I don't know how they can, with a straight face, ask the state of Maine, which isn't a wealthy state, for $60 million. I really don't. so that their operation doesn't go belly up in Bath. Please.
$500 million physical plant operation.
Right. Right.
They're just going to shut it down tomorrow
Yep.
if they don't get this $60 million. Now,
Right.
does that make the slightest bit of sense to you?
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, Bruce.
So you used the word before, fear.
Yeah.
They're trying to make the public afraid.
Yes.
Because everybody's worried about jobs. Admittedly, everybody's worried about
They
jobs.
sure.
They know they got us over the barrel, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And unfortunately, the people of Maine, they listen to these folks. I don't know why. I think more and more people are waking up, though. More and more people are waking up. When I talk to people up in central Maine, where quite a ways from where this is happening, when they hear this amount of money that Bath Iron Works spends to buy its own stock or to pay its executives, and the money that it does the same thing asking the state of Connecticut for millions and millions of dollars.
150 million.
150 million more dollars.
Yeah.
This is chump change to these people.
Exactly.
But maybe it's a perk for the execs.
Someone's going to, the gravy train is.
Yeah, it sure is.
We only have a few minutes left. What should people around the state do to react to this immediately? Because this thing is moving quick now.
Right. It does. There's a work session, as we said, on Thursday
February-
at 1 o'clock, February 22nd.
22nd. Yeah.
And people should call their representatives and ask your friends and your family and your neighbors. Call your representatives and say, General Dynamics doesn't need this. And say the word General Dynamics, not Bath Iron Works, because General Dynamics is the parent company. They're trying to make it sound like Bath Iron Works really needs this. Bath Iron Works is by itself. It's not.
General Dynamics is really calling the shots, aren't they?
Sure.
Absolutely.
They certainly are.
Well, Mark, thank you for coming on the show. I
You're
really
welcome. Thank
appreciate
you, Bruce.
it.
Good to talk to you.
Great to have you here. And thanks for all you've been doing, you and your wife Lisa, around the state to really work on this campaign to try to stop this madness. You both have been really great. Thank you
Thanks.
for that.
We work together with you.
All right.
Great.
Me and three of us and a lot of other people, too.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for watching another edition of This Issue. But before I say my final closing words, I want to underscore the need for all of you to pick up the phone or send an email to your local state representative and state senator and tell them no $60 million for General Dynamics, no $30 million for General Dynamics. However they try to sell this thing in their public relations gambit, please tell your state legislators to reject this. Until next time, folks, good luck to you all, and please get organized. We need the people to be organized against this corporate takeover of our state and our country now more than ever. Bye-bye.